This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, welcome to Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs edition. I'm your host, Erica Lance. Co-hosting with me today is
Vanessa Valiente.
And our guest today is the horror writer extraordinaire, Scott Baker.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about what we're drinking so people can drink along. Okay, I'm not going to recommend drinking along with this necessarily because well, at least for me, it's a little too tanniny. Look how fancy I am right now. It's called King Rabbit Malbec. I am not a huge, as you guys can see, I have not only drank a couple glasses of it, not a huge fan. But if you like kind of dry Malbecs, you might like it. I'm going to continue drinking it, though, because I like getting drunk on my podcast. Vanessa, what are you drinking?
I'm still drinking my coffee in Kahlua, which Erica so made fun of me earlier for it. But it's doing the job. It's giving me a boost, yet it's calming me. So
I feel like this is a little bit of the sissy girl drink, but that's okay. I'm going to move on from that.
No. If it makes you drunk and makes you happy, it's good.
I tease Vanessa a little bit because normally she's drinking vodka and water. And I'm like, is it vodka and water or is it just vodka? Are you just drinking straight vodka?
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, if I get my wife drunk on tequila, I get no writing done that night.
Oh
God,
my God.
I hope she doesn't watch this cast.
I super hope she does watch this podcast. I have to find her and email it to her. Oh my gosh. Okay. What are you drinking?
I usually drink Jack Daniels, but on special occasions like tonight, Gentleman Jack.
Wunderbar. Wunderbar. I love Gentleman Jack. I like Honey Jack too. I put Honey Jack in a lot of things and just regular Jack Daniels. I always have these people that want to drink like these Richie scotches, and I'm like, this does not taste good. Could you put Jack Daniels in a cup for me? I'm not fancy.
My favorite drunken story was when I was in Korea. I had dinner with my first wife and I and a friend had dinner with a Korean gentleman. Now, this was in 1990. He was old school. I mean, he remembered when the Japanese occupied Korea. And he invited me over to his house one night. And, I'm 30 years old. I'm fucking talk of the walk. Nobody can beat me. He's 60. So all night, his wife is pouring beers while we're drinking. And I'm drinking. I had probably about a 6-pack of beers. And I was starting to feel very buzzed. And dinner was over. And then they brought out dessert. And his wife brought out soju, which was rice wine. Very sweet. I had a bowl of that. Oh, could barely even function. So then as we were getting ready to leave, he goes, Mr. Baker, I will be dishonored if you do not do wild turkey shots with me. All I remember was walking into a tree. I remember my wife and her friend dragging me back to the apartment, and my wife pushed me into a chair and said, "Are you going to take a shower?" Now, I'm one of those obnoxiously happy drunks. And I remember looking at her and going, no. So she left me. She went into the bedroom. She locked the door. And I woke up in the morning, stark naked with every electrical appliance in the house running.
Well done.
And no one would tell me what I did all night. So since the MPs didn't show up, I guess it couldn't have been too bad.
Oh my God.
I've got the rule. I don't want to know. If I don't remember when I wake up, I literally do not, unless there's a pool of blood somewhere, I'm not interested in knowing.
Like the time I learned that ice cold vodka is deadly. It was when I had a New Year's Eve party with a dear friend of mine whose ancestry was White Russian. His grandfather had fought with Kolchak during the Civil War, 1917, and had moved to Australia.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I'm down in all of these, like, vodka's not bad until I stood up.
Vanessa has learned that lesson. several
Oh yeah,
times.
no. The
Yeah.
other though, if you ever go, have you been to New Orleans and had a hand grenade?
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh my God. Like it's literally, I don't even know what's in it. I just know that it's like this massive green tube, and then there's little grenades that are slowly seeping Everclear into your drink. And I was drinking this, I'm like, oh, this tastes like Sprite. You know, it's sweet, it's whatever. And before you know it, drank 2, maybe 3. And you know, I'm a short person. It didn't take very long for me to be like 3 sheets to the wind, and I had to be escorted down Bourbon Street so I didn't fall into like some dark corner or something like that.
Bad things can happen on Bourbon Street. I don't know.
Yes.
I had absinthe on Bourbon Street, so I'm a big absinthe fan. But it's not the same as absinthe from like Germany. A friend of mine actually had a real bottle of old absinthe from Germany, not the stuff they serve in the US. Yes, you do see little green fairies if you drink that stuff. If you drink the real stuff, you do whatever. Crazy.
My wife and I took our honeymoon in Nuremberg during the Christmas festival, and I was introduced to pool wine.
Oh.
And, oh my God, by the time every place there was a pool wine, I stopped and got one. By the time we were done, I don't know how she got me back to the hotel.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
See, I don't consider myself an alcoholic. Alcoholics go to meetings. I'm a drunk.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We actually are supposed to ask rapid fire questions. We got
All right.
this totally derailed. I love this. Okay, the first question is, what is your favorite book of all time?
Favorite book of all time is Martin Caden, Whip. It's a World War II book. I was a huge World War II fan growing up. My father and uncle were Marines, and that was the book I loved. It was about air warfare in the Pacific.
Okay. What is your least favorite book of all time?
Oh God, anything I read in 7th grade. Silas Mana. I think that would probably be it. That movie bored the hell out of me.
Wow.
Okay. I have one.
Go for it.
It's very specific for Scott and his love of horror. Has there ever been a movie or any horror TV show or story that freaked you out, that ever disturbed you?
Oh.
Yes. No. Children shouldn't play with dead things. It's a 1970s poorly made movie. I think the acting, the setting, everything is horrible about it. It was made by a bunch of guys on a shoestring budget, but about halfway through the movie, the dead rise in the cemetery. It is even today, it creeps me out. Especially there's this scene where the guy's backing away from the zombie, and this woman's hand comes out of a grave and grabs his ankle. And then she pulls herself out of the grave, up his clothes, forces him to the ground and eats him. It is the creepiest scene. I'm 58, and I still watch that and get a shiver down my spine.
Ooh. You know, it's interesting you say that, because I'm not a spring chicken, and the old horror movies and stuff like that, including the original like Night of the Living Dead and things like that, there was a suspense to it. And then I feel like at a certain point people went to gore. And my whole thing is like, you can have very disgusting or really bad situations. I have a story going into an anthology that we do, which is, this one's called Demonic Vacations. The last one was Demonic Carnival, I think, or demonic, like they're all themed for different things, but this one involves bed bugs.
Yes.
Vacations. That's the one you were doing for vacations.
Yeah, the sheets. And all I said was I just said it has to do with hotel sheets, and that's the reaction everyone has. And I think it's, there's a big difference between really grossing somebody out, but actually scaring the crap out of them. Like, I like it when it's actually scary and suspenseful and, not.
Yes.
cabin fever where you're ripping somebody's thigh off. Yes, that is gross, but it's not scary to me.
I
No.
get freaked out over the psychological stuff. Like for instance, I can be okay with like an axe going through someone's head or like
Mhm.
you know something like that. But when you're dealing with like I'm trying to think of the like Saw. I hate Saw. I hate the Saw
Oh.
movies. The whole like I remember watching an episode of like I don't know if it was like Cold Case or something like that, or where they put three girls who were best friends into a room, and they said that you can leave only if one of you is dead. And so they had to decide which one they were going to kill within the room. And that was the only way that they can get out. And to me, that is like the ultimate scary. I don't know. I'm freaked out by that. I can't watch that.
Jeffrey Combs, Have You Ever? It's very much along that lines. It's a great psychological thriller. Another movie where the scare factor reigns is The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Oh wow. Oh, that was sorry. That was
That's fine. That was Avon.
well, my daughter just tried to FaceTime with me because I'm using a Mac. It was like, hey, use this thing. And no.
You need an auto warranty loan.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Do you read to the end of a story even if you don't like it?
No. However, I will not give a bad review of a story if I don't like it. That's not fair. Not everybody likes everything. If the story is crappily written, crappily edited, crappily formatted, I will give a bad review to save other readers. But if it's a well-written story and it doesn't appeal to me, I won't read to the end. But I buy books. I don't do Kindle Unlimited.
Do you review books?
I don't review books. I used to, but I don't have enough time. I've got 4 books on my plate right now, plus half a dozen other things I'm doing. I'm lucky if I get to read a book a month.
Wow. Do you find that people ask you for reviews?
I've had a few, but I've told them flat out that I can't. I just don't have the time. And they're very understanding.
Makes sense. Yes, Vanessa.
Do you have a question, Vanessa?
Yes, I did. I want to
be able to tell when you guys watch this on YouTube, she's flailing her arms about.
Okay, so favorite book to movie or book to TV show adaptation?
Favorite book to movie? That's hard because very few books I've read have translated well into the movie. I can't think of any offhand. Now, there are, like World War Z was one of the best zombie books I've ever read. If you take that and think, oh, World War Z, the movie, it sucked. But I don't look at it that way. World War Z, the movie, was something completely different. It was great, but I try not to compare the two. I can't think of a book offhand that transferred to a movie that was really bad or that really stands out as awesome. My books would make great movies if anybody from Hollywood's watching.
Yeah, for anybody listening.
Netflix.
I think a lot of people don't realize World War Z starts after the whole zombie thing has happened. Like,
yeah.
You know, I loved World War Z. I was super excited when I saw the movie coming out, but then I saw the previews and I went, okay, that's not going to be the same.
See, the part that killed me was the noise that they made when they're like,
oh yeah.
Oh God, I just remember like sitting in my room, like my brother watching it with him, and obviously he has this sick joy of torturing me, and then like he would come in the middle in the darkness and make that noise like right behind me, and I would just like freak out, like, oh, it was a great movie, but that noise that kills me.
I lost interest in the movie when the plane scene out of Jerusalem. When he throws the grenade, I was like, oh, for God's sakes, now you're getting ridiculous. Like a zombie movie isn't ridiculous.
What did you think of like Zombieland? You're kind of a zombie expert. What did you think of, what are your favorite zombie TV shows and stuff like that, who do you think did it well?
I loved The Walking Dead for the first 5 or 6 seasons. Once they left the prison, once the governor was killed off, they added way too many characters. It started to get to the point that you'd wait 3 episodes before you'd see your favorite characters. So I stopped. I've taped them, but I haven't watched them. I stopped watching after Rick died.
I
Stopped watching it, Negan.
Yes, the episode where Negan kills
Glenn.
Yes, Glenn, and I stopped, and because at that point also, not only did they make me upset about killing Glenn, I felt like they kept regurgitating the same concept over again, but with different settings and different peoples. Because the thing that I loved most about Walking Dead, I almost said World War Z, Walking Dead is the humanity aspect, the deterioration of society and what people would do when they were a regular person in their normal day job. And then they became like this evil warlord or something. But then at that point, it just felt like it was the same kind of deal. And so to me, the shock factor or the cool factor just kind of disappeared for me.
Now I watched Fear the Walking Dead, and I love the last few seasons much better than the first 2. It's the only TV show I've seen where they killed off almost the entire main cast of the first 2 seasons and then brought in a cast that's much better. And of course, I love Z Nation. I mean, that's just comedic zombies. You gotta love that. And there's another series I love on Netflix, The Kingdom. It's 2 seasons. They're filming a 3rd. It's Korean made. I would watch it. First episode or 2 are boring. Sit through them. It is set in ancient Korea, ancient Koryo, but they have a take on zombies that is so unique, so bizarre. And when you get to the end of the first season, it's not often that I hit pause and stare at the computer screen for a while, trying to soak it all in.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good recommendation.
Now, did you end up watching Fear Street on Netflix?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I liked it. I want to watch it again. I thought it was very good. I thought it was well tied together. My God, the kid that went berserk with the axe, that was so realistic. I mean, I was cringing every time he just started. That wasn't like a Freddy Krueger movie. That guy was really good.
See, because I'm very particular when it comes to horror, but to me, the only death that really got it, I mean, don't get me wrong, the camp, especially killing kids, just after someone killing kids at a overnight camp, is still the first one in 1994 where the girl's head is in the meat grinder.
Oh,
at the deli, and all I know, I was just like that was the one where I had to do one of these moments where I was like, okay, I just had to breathe. That one scared the bejesus out of me.
And it was well written, the way they intertwined the 3 of them. I think it was very good. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a fan. It's not zombie of Stranger Things.
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
Stranger Things was very well written. I think that's a huge part of it, is how well written and how well directed, because acting too, but how well written and how well directed something is, because you could have great actors and totally fuck up how they're doing the movie. Exactly. If you don't direct it well, you don't set it up well, you don't, I think but it's true with novels too. You have the whole, is it not that characters can't do ridiculous and whatever things, but do you keep the person in the story, or do you end up pushing them out of the story because you do something weird or dumb or something like that doesn't keep you there and keep you engaged? What about for you? What will push you out of a story?
From a plot point of view, constant repetition. If it's like a zombie or a vampire novel, if there's 6 or 7 chapters of exposition or talking, or, oh, I love you, but you love Joanne, and I don't want that stuff. If I want that stuff, I'll pick up a romance. I want, yeah, you got to build the characters, you got to build the plot, but at least every 4 chapters, I want at least one zombie killed. And for me, and this is the hardest part I find of writing, killing zombies differently. I don't want to every novel I come up with a more unique way to kill off zombies. And I'm like, yay, I did it. Then I sit down and write the next one and it's like, shit, what the hell am I going to do at the end of this?
The same thing can be said about romance, right? I mean, I understand, like, how many times can you show 2 people having some sexual activity before you're just like, this seems awkward. This seems weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's your next question, Vanessa? Kahlua.
Ooh. Okay, favorite horror trope.
Favorite horror trope. Jason. I mean, you can't kill him, no matter what you do. He can't be stopped. It's a stupid movie series. After Friday the 13th, maybe part 2, it went downhill. I mean, come on, Jason Takes Manhattan. That was got to be the second worst movie. Jason X. But I love Jason. I love the way he walks around. He'll look at somebody and then like chop them off with an axe. I could watch those movies all day. Next in line would be Sharknado.
Sharknado, really?
My wife hates to admit to people I love the Sharknado movies. They're so stupid. I don't know what surprises me more. That somebody sat at a pitch meeting and said a tornado filled with sharks. That somebody at the pitch meeting said, great idea, here's $5 million, do it. Or that they're now on movie 5.
Yeah, what's interesting too is if you look at them, the first one, everybody was like, this is a joke. You got these rejected, 90210 actors and American Pie actors, like they haven't worked in forever.
Yes.
And now you have people begging to guest here. I'm like, how did that become a thing? That's just craziness.
It's stupid. And that's what I used to hate Sci-Fi Channel when it first came out because it was like, you're producing crap. And then I read an interview with the president and he said, think of us as the Roger Corman and the Stuart Gordons of our day. We're not here to produce quality movies. We're not looking to get an Academy Award. We're here to entertain. If the idea sounds stupid and far-fetched, who cares? If you sit there for 2 hours and enjoy it, we've accomplished our goals. And, that puts Sci-Fi Channel in a whole new light for me. It's like watching modern versions of the 1950s. Santa Jaws. A shark that has Christmas lights wrapped around its fin and a Santa hat on the fin. The movie sucked. I enjoy it. I throw it on in the background while I'm reading emails and going through Facebook. It's 2 hours of mindless entertainment. It's perfect.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people like to read, paranormal romance and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of books that they're just entertaining. You can find like a lightheartedness. There's some movies you can get into that are these really deep things. Like Stranger Things is not a light thing. They're like layers upon layers upon. You could keep watching that 5 times and not even see all the layers that are in that particular thing, right? Yeah. And then you have Sharknado where there is maybe a dotted line. It's not even a layer that's on top. Like you don't have to get invested. You can turn and look away and you're not going to miss anything that's going to be a killer plot point that you have to know to finish that book.
Mm-hmm. I have a dear friend of mine who I edit her books. She's overseas and English is her second language. So she writes fantasy reverse harem porn novels. I don't want to call them paranormal romance because they're really not. And I said to her when I first started reading them, are you out of your fucking mind? And she's like, that's what the fans want. So yeah, they don't care how badly the novel is written. They don't care if there's plot holes. They want to see the werewolf, the vampire, the demon, and the fairy gang bang the main character.
That's it's so true because, I feel like, especially traditional publishing, which again, this, we love traditional publishing. We love all aspects of publishing, but traditional publishing likes to say paranormal's dead. No one reads, vampires or any of those things. Yet that's the one thing that everyone asked for when they came to our table asking for their books. They're like, I want this, this, and this. And they can be more forgiving on certain things as long as you hit certain little box on their list. And it's like that exact same thing. It's with romance too. There is, it's just entertainment. There's value in that as well. It doesn't have to be like this groundbreaking story that makes you think on life and, I learned to be a better person at the end of the day. Like, no, I just want to have my jollies and then walk away,
There's like 2 like Hallmark channels. You gotta be kidding me, but it's popular. And I used to work at a bookstore. I used to love it. Every romance book, except the Harlequins, was a muscular 6-pack blonde guy with his hair flowing down his back with no shirt, swooping up in his arms, a big-breasted woman whose bodice was bursting at the seams. Didn't matter if he was a pirate, if he was a space alien, an astronaut. It was just almost like the same cover. Let's just change the clothes on it.
Mm-hmm.
But they were popular. They sold out.
You know what it is?
That's what it will sell. It's entertainment. Like,
I think there's also a comfort too when you see certain little things. Like,
exactly.
I'm generally not a Hallmark person, but one December I found myself watching, what is it, the Netflix journalist falls in love with the prince, and it was the movie
Christmas
where they
Prince.
Huh?
The Christmas Prince.
Yes, I did it.
You watched
I watched
it
all
too.
3 movies. The movie, the wedding, and the baby.
So the reason I know about this is I have a friend who loves these.
Oh, yeah.
Loves them and tells me about them, and she'll tell me like, oh my gosh, I watched this one. So every time I see her, I'm like, how was that movie about the raccoon vet that lives in Montana that falls in love with the person running the carrot delivery truck? Like, because they're just the dumbest like things in the entire world. And she laughed. She's like, there's one like that. And I'm like, the fact that you would even think that could possibly be the real plot of one of these movies tells me where you're at. But she'll tell me these things and she'll say, this person's in them. And I'm like, that person's been in the last 5 that you showed me. But it's different because he's a vet now.
Oh yeah, no, the best is when they're the baker, right? Like there's always a baker or someone making cookies or something. Like the Vanessa Hudgens, where she played the regular girl and the princess, and they switch places. And there are movies I typically don't go for, but sometimes you get suckered into these moments. Oh wait, did we lose him?
We lost our guest. We'll see if he pops back in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up for a first wrap up of an episode without the guest ever. That's so bizarre. Well, we'll have to see if he pops back in while we're talking about romance movies on his podcast that he's not on anymore.
Yeah.
That is hysterical. You've got to love the internet. We've had a lot of firsts in the last few episodes.
I know. I'm like, I feel like
there would be something really interesting. So we decided to put a new commercial in between the YouTube episodes, which are going up again, which is amazing. And this commercial happened to be an advertisement for an erotica book, and YouTube flagged it and pulled it down.
Oh no! Oh my God. We should have like a jar of suggestions so that when moments like this happen, like we just take a jar and be like, oh, do a funny dance, do a keg stand in front of the screen.
Why does everything involve a keg stand with you lately?
Because I'm sorry.
A keg stand?
I want to do a keg stand on the show.
Have you ever done a keg stand?
No, in college, I did the foam parties. I did the sluge? I did the funneling beer, shotgunning cans. I did it all. I did not do a keg stand. I missed out on that moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. We will have to make that moment happen. but it appears that our guest is not popping back in. So for the first time ever, Drinking with Authors will wrap up without Scott Baker, but he said you can find him on Facebook, Scott Baker Demon Hunters. And he's there and he accepts everybody, and you can find all of his books. Alissa the Nurse versus Zombies, book 7 going to book 11. So there's plenty of zombiness. I have been your host, Erica Lance. With me has been
Vanessa Valiente.
And we will see you next time, maybe with more fun technical difficulties.
Woo-hoo.